This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to Dr. Emma and me on the Tutors Dynasty and Beyond podcast. And now, here are your hosts.
Hello and welcome back. It's Thursday, so that means it's time for Dr. Emma and me. Welcome back, Emma.
Yay! Guess who's back? Every episode now.
I was just going to say.
How are you, Rebecca?
Oh, I'm great. Do we want to talk about how cold it is in Minnesota? It's going to be colder tomorrow.
We're getting a vortex, polar, yeah. We've been through those before, though.
Oh,
bring it on.
I felt like yesterday it wasn't too bad. Like I went outside and I think like the air temperature was 20 some degrees, but with the wind, it felt like negative something, but it felt warm to me yesterday and it was snowing. And today I don't want to go outside. So
this is when I don't like Minnesotans, born and raised Minnesotans. So they're like, well, it wasn't that bad. It was just, no, Rebecca, it was bad. It will be worse. My only solace is when it's really, really bad, there's nowhere to go. So nobody's going to force you to go outside. When it's somewhat cold to the rest of the humanity, when it's extremely cold, but bearable, Minnesotans expect you to go out and do things.
Yeah.
So, and I'm in hibernation mode now.
Oh my gosh. I was just reminded last night by a friend that there is a curling tournament this weekend or no, next weekend maybe. And that's like insanity. It's an outdoor curling tournament on a lake in the
Insanity. Curling sounds like insanity. So, I mean, I'm sure they're pretty happy about it.
It looks like a fun sport. I just don't think any winter sports are for me, to be honest with you. I used to like ice skating, but that's when I was a kid and like the cold didn't affect me at all.
Right. Curling sounds like something you do when you're from somewhere like this. Yes.
Right.
Leave it at that. That's all my comment I'm going to do on curling. I didn't know this was a podcast about curling.
I know. This is what happens.
Oh, I didn't bring my notes about curling. I from somewhere.
I should have warned you we'd be talking about curling. I think that's because today's topic is so outside my comfort zone that I felt like I had to put you outside yours.
Well, you definitely did with the curling comment, because the only curling I do is in my hair. But don't worry, because I'm here and surprise, surprise, I know a little bit about this. I'm an art historian. I have a master's in Spanish Empire. So
Oh, you do, huh?
Oh, I do. I keep bringing it up, people. This just reflects on my poor self-esteem sometimes.
Yeah.
I need to remind people all my titles.
I do want to talk briefly about some of the great comments that we're getting from last week's episode, because, I mean, how fun was that one? What do we call it? Parallel
Hysterical Tinders? No, what was it, Rebecca? Hysterical Tinders? It was hysterical.
It was hysterical. The comments have proven that it was a funny episode.
Comments in like a fraction of a second. People were ready for this.
I was amazed. Usually, we have a time difference and I set them to go at 5 a.m. Central Time. I get up later than that and I open up and have to go through and approve comments. And I was like, holy cow, there's like 10 comments in here already.
I know. I am one of the first listeners. I wake up early usually. Yes. It's not because I want to, it's just because of age.
You eat supper at 4 p.m., right?
Right. And then I go to bed at the same time my daughter does. She's 7. So we usually by 9 we're reading in bed and I'm like, okay, good nighty.
Yeah.
And I go to sleep.
Yeah, you are like an old person, aren't you? No offense to old people. Yes. We're both getting there.
No. I think old people have a great life. I'm experiencing it, and it's cozy in bed at 9 p.m.
Yeah,
when it's been dark for 5 hours already. In the summer is when I change. In the summer is when I'm a youngish person. And then maybe I'll push until 10. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I love summer. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Anyway, so last episode. Anyway, now that we're done talking about weather.
Last episode was amazing.
Yes.
I want to thank Rebecca for always supporting my delusions on all these ideas that I have. We do go through a lot of them, and a lot of them are rubbish, but I think this one was actually quite fun, and I think it proved that people liked it. And it kind of makes sense that I think Historical Tinder is really making a hit.
It is.
And Parallel Lives made a hit too. So I think it was a good idea to combine the two for sure.
I think it was a brilliant idea, Emma.
I liked a comment that said that we were funny and naughty. And that are two things I always aspire to be.
I do like the people who keep bringing up Henry Cavill and how we keep talking about him.
Yes, full disclosure, Henry Cavill's lawyer. We do it from a place of love and admiration.
We do. I do have to say publicly that I did reach out to Henry Cavill's people to see if he...
Do we have an answer?
No, we still don't have an answer.
See, this is because we have mentioned him way too much, and he's going to be like, you guys are
stalkers.
Yeah,
probably. So we'll just live in our imaginary world and pretend like he watches the show.
Yeah. He really is waiting for the right time to come.
Yes. He waits
He's just keeping he's keeping track. He has a notebook.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of the first.
Dr. Emma and me, and there's a heart next to the Emma.
He sets his alarm so that he remembers to watch the episode as soon as it drops on YouTube, and he's like anticipating.
And just to clarify, neither Henry or I are single, so why am I talking about this?
Yeah, Rebecca? I don't know.
You bring out the naughty in me.
It's my imaginary world where Henry Cavill likes me.
Yes, exactly. Everybody has, parallel lives when you have a parallel life to yourself.
Yeah, speaking of parallel lives, okay, let's get on with today's episode. The one that I know nothing about. I only did some light surface.
You do know something about it because you had a magnificent guest some time ago talking about one of these lives, remember?
That's right. Should I try to say the name?
Yes, please.
Okay, today...
Of the guest or of the...
No. Of the people we're talking about. If I say the guest's name, I'm going to want to sing his name, like Lady Gaga, but I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to put everybody through that right now.
Everybody knows who you're talking about now.
I think so.
Yeah, Lady Gaga. She's amazing.
She is amazing. So today we're talking about Velázquez.
Muy bien.
Thank you. And we're talking about Philip IV of Spain. Who the hell is he?
Okay. Who the hell is he? We certainly have talked a lot about Philip II of Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our favorites, Crybaby.
Yes.
With Philip I of Spain.
That's right.
So this guy, surprise, surprise, is a Habsburg.
Yeah. And what do we know about Habsburgs?
What do we know? They have nice long chins.
They like to marry their nieces.
The nieces, there's some going on in here of that, so be prepared. Nieces, cousins, anyone that really is close to power, right? Because the Habsburgs become a very powerful monarchy. And in this case, Philip IV is the son of Philip III. Wow.
Surprise. Yes, but I did look up he was the grandson of Philip II, right?
There you go.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Just to quickly sum up, we have Isabel and Fernando Trastámaras. We know that, right? Mm-hmm. From the Trastámara dynasty. Then they have 4 daughters and 1 son, but their son dies. Their daughter Juana, there's several episodes on her, you can go and check those out, marries Crybaby, Philip of Habsburg, right?
Yes.
Philip of Habsburg becomes King of Castile by marriage to Juana, and they have Charles V in Ghent
in the toilets
in 1500. And 1500 is a great date to remember because Charles V becomes the most powerful man in the first half of the 16th century with Henry VIII and Francis I's permission. So let's stop it there. 1500, Charles is born in Ghent, in the toilet. Charles is betrothed several times to Mary Rose Tudor. We've talked about this, other episodes, Historical Tinder even. And then Charles is betrothed to Mary Tudor. Surprise, surprise, another cousin. But we've talked about this. He ends up marrying Elizabeth of Portugal. His
Another
other cousin.
cousin. He's like, which cousin?
Which cousin should I marry? The one closest in age, really. Usually, I've talked about this before. The Spanish monarchs favor the alliance with Portugal because there's an idea that the Iberian Peninsula could be and would be unified under one monarch, and that's happened. We'll talk about it with Philip IV. And very quickly, when Charles and Isabel marry in Seville, which is a beautiful city in Spain that you have to put in your bucket list, they have Philip II. Philip II, who marries
Mary,
but he marries another 3 women because,
yeah, because that's
he got
what he
busy.
does.
We should do his historical Tinder because, yikes, the guy was busy with marriage for sure. Not quite Henry VIII.
He really got through his cousins.
He really got through his cousins. Do I have any left? Well, you have one who she's 15. Send her over.
Yeah.
So marries Mary, doesn't have children. We know that. But then in his third marriage to Elizabeth of Valois has his son, Philip, and his daughters, right? So that's how Philip III becomes after King of Spain. Philip II, it's another good to kind of get the Habsburgs in perspective in Spain. Charles is born in 1500. Philip II dies in 1598. So 5 years prior to Elizabeth.
Wow. Okay.
So they're just more or less at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's when Philip III, his son, becomes king. So Philip IV is the son of this Philip III. He's born in Valladolid, which is for some time the capital of the realm, in 1605. So we're already in the 17th century, in the Baroque era, but we're still talking about the Habsburgs.
Right. And post-Tudor now at this point.
Post-Tudor because it's 1605 and Elizabeth dies in
1603.
1603. So James the 6th and the 1st is the King of England now, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But we're still in a pretty close period to the Elizabethan time, right?
Definitely.
So that's on the one hand, Philip IV of Spain.
Okay.
On the other side, we have Diego Velázquez, who was his family originally came from Portugal, but who was raised in Seville. Again, Seville, right?
Yeah.
Seville became, in the Spanish Empire, the place that got exclusivity for anything to do with the American Empire. So any commodities that would come from America, anything that would come through from America, Seville had the exclusivity. So it had to come through the port of Seville. That's why Seville, that had been so important in the medieval period, becomes even more important in the Renaissance time when America is already a thing in the Spanish Empire, because we're talking about already a time where there's a lot of stuff going on in America too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, do you know where the name America comes from?
Yes, but don't ask.
Want to share that with our listeners?
I feel stupid because I did not know this for my entire life. I swear I was never taught this in school. And if I was, it seems so insignificant that I didn't even know it until I was dating this guy who told me this fact. And I went, how do you know that? And I don't know this.
It's surprising sometimes to me, the things that sometimes Americans are not aware of their own culture. I think it's because it's a very English-centered. English is the language, English culture and English language-centered culture. So a lot of the things that come from the Spanish Empire or the Spanish are not as known. So America comes from the name of an Italian guy, right? Yeah.
Is it? I don't want to. I'm afraid I'm going to get this wrong. Vespucci or something like that.
So his given name was Amerigo, and his last name was Vespucci. Why do I say the Spanish Empire if it's an Italian guy? Well, like Columbus, right? Like Christopher Columbus. Amerigo Vespucci was Italian because the Italian sailors were really good, and the humanist culture came from there. But Amerigo Vespucci traveled with the Spanish exploration trips. So when they were starting to go to America, they wouldn't call it America, call it the West Indies and other things. But then this guy went a couple of times and he came back and he was like, you know what? I think this is a new continent. And everybody was like, Amerigo, you're so funny, you know? But it caught on. So one of the first world maps done with the inclusion of America by a German map maker, he included this name honoring his friend who had not discovered America, because America wasn't discovered, there was already people there.
Yeah.
But yes, realized that the world was not just the world was bigger, but this was a new continent that the Europeans hadn't known, because the Europeans thought they had reached Asia.
Yes.
So that's where America comes from. Like, did you know the dollar was a Spanish coin?
I did not.
There you go.
Oh, interesting. That's where our money comes from, huh?
I know. I know.
You never know what Dr. Emma's going to teach you.
I know. You know, I bring up a lot of my titles, but that Masters in Spanish Empire taught me a thing or two.
Yes, it
And
did.
then I think for me, one of the things I like the most is to surprise people with fun facts, you know? And again, obsessed with my culture. So I think it's important to honor the things that, you know, I mean, isn't that great that America comes from, now we know where it comes from and all that. So
I can't even tell you, like, in my everyday life, how many times I have to bring up history around people. And just like you just did, I always gonna be like, oh, fun fact, did you know? And then I feel like I can feel them rolling their eyes like, here she goes again.
I used to do that a lot until you invited me to be in this podcast. And I just say, because I don't see people roll their eyes at home, I'm fine with it. You know what I mean?
I love it.
And you have to pretend not to roll your eyes.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you do internally sometimes.
No, I was like, I do roll my eyes if I feel the need to.
Okay. Well, that's good for me because I don't see you roll your eyes way too much. Okay, let's go back to parallel lives with Diego Velázquez and Philip IV of Spain. I know sometimes people like to memorize facts. Another fun fact or like important fact to memorize, Diego Velázquez was born in 1599. Right? So it's another way. I like to know. I'm going to disclosure, guys. I'm not very good with dates.
You seem like you're doing pretty well today. Are you just telling us wrong dates or what?
Well, I wrote them down.
Okay.
But I know it's difficult sometimes to remember very precise dates. Mm-hmm. So whenever they're close to a big milestone, like the mid of the century, the end of the century, I do well with those. And that's why I encourage people to do that too, if you're not as good with dates, because those are, like I said, in 1500, Charles V was born. 1598, Philip II dies. The year after, Diego Velázquez is born. So Elizabeth I is still queen when Diego Velázquez is born. But he's part of the new century. And in terms of, we've talked a lot about artists in this podcast, but in terms of art, the change of the century also brings a change in the way artists represent people and all that. So that's why I thought it would be fun to talk about this period called in art. And it's so important in Spanish history that it's called the Spanish Golden Age, just like the Elizabethan period is a golden age for English culture, right?
Yes.
So in Spain is a bit later. That's what I'm saying. And it's very funny because when you study the Spanish Empire, is the beginning of the decline politically of the Spanish Empire that peaks with Philip II. But because of all of that has happened during the reign of Philip IV, the Spanish Empire is declining, but the arts have the best period ever. And Diego Velázquez is one of those guys who makes this happen, right?
Yeah, so, and Rubens, right?
Very good. Thank you for bringing up Rubens. Yes. So Rubens comes to Spain because of this power that the Spanish monarchy has. And remember that connection between Flanders and Spain. This is very important in culture and art because we talk about the Tudors a lot, and Flanders is very connected to the Tudors. but because remember what Alejandro said about there's two places really for innovative art in this called the modern period, which starts in the 15th century and goes until the 18th century, is Italy and Flanders, right? So Rubens meets Philip II's daughter, Isabel Clara Eugenia, who she is the monarch, the sovereign in Flanders. And that's how Rubens gets an invitation to go to Spain. And that's when the King of Spain becomes obsessed with him. And that's why Rubens starts really a career as a diplomat. I'm being very careful because, if Alejandro's listening, I don't want to make any mistakes. So let's not talk about Rubens too much.
Yeah, let's not. Let's go back.
If we ever have to do parallel lives about Rubens, I'll have to study for sure. In the case of Diego Velázquez, he is what he's bringing, and he's different to what I want to say about parallel lives. He's different to Philip the Fourth of Spain, because Philip really, he's a great patron of the arts, but he's doing work of continuation of Philip II, of continuation of Philip III. Whereas Diego Velázquez is a very, very innovative artist. Very talented, extremely talented. Not the most hardworking person ever. It's something that Alejandro brought up too. Rubens is way much more productive than Velázquez is. But the king likes him. And once you get the king's favor, it's pretty easy to, be a slacker a little bit.
When I think of him, I immediately think of the scene. We talked about this last night briefly, and I always forget what the name of that painting is. And we talked about, or maybe you interviewed Alejandro on it, and it was like the scene of a room, and there's so much going on. And then I think there's a reflection in a mirror.
Yes. The most famous painting of Velázquez is Las Meninas, which is a family portrait of the Spanish royal family. The reason why, one of the reasons why it's so famous, it's because it depicts the royal family, but Velázquez is included in the picture, painting on one side. And then very smartly, the scene is in a room in the royal palace, and in the back of the scene, there's a mirror where the king and the queen are reflected.
Yes.
So I assure you, this painting, when you go, it's in a very large room in the Prado Museum, our favorite museum. And whenever you walk into this room, there's a lot other Velázquez paintings there, but this one grabs you because it's such a compelling portrait.
How big is it in person?
Pretty big. It's
really?
Big.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have the exact measurements, but we can. Yeah, this room is a very big room in the Prado Museum. Velázquez painted we see in the 16th century how portraiture gets bigger and bigger and bigger because they started to realize how powerful it is. They want to display it in big places, right? Yeah. There's even like memes about it. So we're going from these very tiny portraits of, we now, you know what the problem is? We now see everything in our screens. Mm-hmm. So we tend to, in our brains, everything's the same size.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Let's compare, for example, the picture of Isabel of Castile that we bring up a lot in the Prado Museum. That's just a little tiny picture.
Right.
And it's now displayed next to the one of Antonis More of Mary, the one with the rose. And the size is very different. In the mid-16th century, that's when artists like Antonis More, who becomes a royal portrait painter, just like Velázquez, starts to make these pictures bigger. Antonis More and Titian are the first two to make them bigger. But then as time goes by and the Spanish Empire starts to decline, the pictures just get bigger. We're so big.
Oh, they're overcompensating.
Talking about overcompensating, right?
Yes.
One of the biggest, most powerful, compelling portraits of Velázquez is of the Count Duke of Olivares, Have you ever heard of this guy?
No, I don't think so.
Well, he's the Wolsey. He's the Wolsey
Okay.
of Philip the Fourth. So Philip the Fourth, we could have done a parallel lives with Henry VIII because he was like into like not ruling too much, more into the the party life, the ceremonial life. So he had someone rule for him. And there's a very impressive picture on a horse of this Count Duke of Olivares that he's looking back at us, and the horse is like doing a cabriole. So that's one of the most famous pictures that is in that same room. Yeah, you can see the overcompensation in that picture. The Count Duke of Olivares, thank you. Talking of dudes like, no, I want it bigger. Yeah, I know you want it bigger, but
AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
You know, when I was looking at Philip the Fourth, of course, the first thing that I did was pull up Wikipedia to kind of see what I could gather from it. I don't have it up in front of me right now, but was he really referred to as the Planet King or something like that?
Yes, he was referred to as the Planet King. He had lots of cultural endeavors for as much as, that happens sometimes with kings. I think he's similar to Charles I of England. He's a very kind of politically, his reign is tumultuous, like Charles I, because he's so obsessed with the arts. He's spending a lot of money on this, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, Philip does a lot of cultural endeavors, like Philip IV has the first array of maps of Spain, of views of cities arranged for him. Beautiful. Bird's eye views of towns and cities and all that.
Oh.
I mean, we need to think that the Renaissance is advancing too, and that the constant connection to America is bringing new ideas about exploration, geography, mapping, and all that, right? So it's all developed a lot. He also encourages a lot the arts in the sense of there's a lot of writers. It's a bit like the Shakespearean time in England.
Okay.
So Lope de Vega, Calderón de la Barca, maybe these names don't ring a bell, but in Spanish, anyone who went to Spanish school has had to read the theater plays of Calderón de la Barca or Lope de Vega. He wrote sonnets. They also had a feud between them. So they would write sonnets against each other. It was a bit like, Elizabethan time, Shakespeare had his rivals. So in that sense, Philip is a bit in the literary scene, a bit like Elizabeth I, where he's encouraging the theater. So that's another time it's called as the golden age of Spanish theater. Us Spanish people, we love theatrical stuff.
It so surprises me that the golden age for them was after the Tudors' golden age, because it always seems like Spain was so ahead of the curve on that stuff.
I think you're right, and I think it's a lot to do with the centralization of the court in Madrid, because during the reign of Isabella and Fernando and after, you have to think Charles V was never in Spain. He was always traveling. He was the emperor too. So he had to favor lots of things. We've talked a lot about, it's more like this is a Spanish golden era of the arts in Spain in Spanish, right? Okay. And in the 16th century, the Spanish monarchy is more of a global monarchy with different centers, right? So it's a bit more different, I think, in that sense. It's not as centered in Madrid and Spain, and that's why there's a lot going on, but it's not centralized in one court, in one place that becomes that, place that is now. I mean, the Prado Museum comes from this idea of the centralization of the court in Madrid that is done by Philip III. So in that sense, but you're right. It's striking that it takes longer for
You know,
And I think it's also got to do with the fact that Diego Velázquez is a Spaniard versus, if you think about the previous artists that we talk in the Spanish monarchy, they're always foreign.
yeah, yeah.
Antonis More, Titian. So I think Diego Velázquez has a lot to do with this and the centralization of the court in Madrid.
I have a different question, and then we can go right back. But I'm just kind of curious. You're just talking about the vastness of the empire. Do you think that the size of the empire had anything to do with its eventual downfall?
Seems like a loaded question. Does size matter? Is what I heard.
I knew you were going to go there too. As I was saying it, I was like, I know she's going. Yeah.
I'm so basic, guys. I'm sorry. I'm basic. I talk about toilets and the size of things. Yes. So yes, I think that the size of the empire was crucial in its downfall. It is impossible. I mean, there's a saying that says that the sun never set in Philip II's empire. Think about it. He had from the Philippines to America.
Yeah.
And all the European territories that they had gained, because he was, he had Flanders, he had a lot of territories in Europe too. So it does become very difficult to for administration purposes. Also, the Spanish Empire is very, very different in its administration to what would be later on the English Empire, because what they're trying to do, it's a different time, so the objective is different. At the beginning, the objective is to Christianize the peoples of America. Yeah. That's the main goal. And then once it became apparent that they were going to stay there, it's not colonies. It's called virreinatos. So they are trying to replicate the metropoli in America. It's they get the same status. The cities get the same status as the cities in Spain.
Oh,
yes, and the person who's in charge is the vice king. He's called. So it's not a governor. He is, in political thought, he is representing the king. In the king's absence, he is the king. That's why it's different. They're trying to replicate. So, for example, the territories in America are divided in virreinatos. So it's like we talked about Spain and the Spanish monarchy being divided in different kingdoms, Kingdom of Aragon, Kingdom of Castile, and all those. That's the way they're replicating it in America. They're kingdoms, but American kingdoms under the same monarch.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas in America, in the British Empire, it's colonies. Yeah. It's very different, right?
Yeah.
So we have to think that the Spanish and the British Empire are very different in the way they are organized. So it becomes very difficult because a lot of corruption, very difficult to manage. And then the other powers in Europe want a piece of the cake.
Yeah. So, okay. So back to the topic today. So Philip the Fourth inherits, and he was like, maybe he kind of just took advantage of the situation, thinking it was always going to be there, like, oh, this has been in my family forever, so I can just mess around and get myself painted as much as I want and throw money. Yeah.
I think you're right. That he was brought up that way. He was old money by this time. He was a privileged dude. So why I wanted to pair him with his main artist is because Diego Velázquez is not really like that. And artists are not really like that. Usually they do, a lot of them come from nothing, right? And it's their talent that brings them up to the spotlight. So yes, Philip the Fourth he behaves like a rich boy that is into art,
Yeah.
Like a rich boy that's into art. And Diego Velázquez, on the other hand, is an extremely talented guy that all his life, what he wanted, and he got it at the very end, was to become noble. Oh. So then this is something Alejandro talked about, the obsession that these court artists have to behave well and to behave like gentlemen, because they're not, It's the new money, is the new, right? So in that sense, we can see how, even though these two people are born, I mean, there's only 6 years between them. One comes from nothing, not nothing, but
In comparison.
yeah. And the other one has everything. But the other one, we have to give credit to Philip IV because he did see the talent that Velázquez had. So, the accumulation, the works of art that he already had in his collection, the artists that were already working for him. When he saw Velázquez, he was like, no, I like this guy. So bring him on. But remember what Alejandro also said. Once Rubens was in Spain, he was like, no, Rubens is Rubens, okay? So take that picture of me by Velázquez and put up this picture that Rubens has done.
Yikes.
So Velázquez and Rubens never had a fight like Torrigiano and Michelangelo, but Rubens certainly stepped on Velázquez's realm because imagine the affront for a painter who's already painted a picture of the king and the other painter arrives and the king prefers the other painter.
I would feel very threatened.
Yeah, but Rubens was much older than Velázquez.
Oh, so Velázquez
much more established. I think Velázquez just knew he had to be quiet about that. Yeah. And I think that's a value of someone who knows where he comes from. You know what I mean? Yeah. Wait for your turn. Don't overstep yourself. Whereas Philip, he's the king, so he can do whatever he wants. But on the other hand, I will say, don't forget about this Count Duke of Olivares. He's the most important political figure in the reign of Philip IV. He's the one really ruling. And he's very obsessed with the arts too. So in this sense, they're very similar to Henry VIII and Wolsey. It's a tandem of a nobleman. Well, in the case of Wolsey, a clergyman, but the advisor and the king that both become obsessed with art, and they not compete because you can't really compete with the king. But yet the Count Duke is the one to call Velázquez because he's trying over and over to impress the king. So that's very similar to Wolsey and Henry, right?
Yeah.
So we could, in that sense, they're very parallel.
Did he have the same outcome as Wolsey?
No, and he falls out of grace, but not as Wolsey's intense, man. What happens to what? We've never done Wolsey on the podcast.
Yeah. I actually, I'm trying. No, we've never done it. I think I had Alison Ware on once to talk about him.
Yeah, Wolsey's very interesting because he also uses art and bringing artists and snatching artists from other people like Catherine of Aragon. Whoops, I mentioned her. To impress the king, really, and to create an image of power, which is at this time what we have to remember. Just like Philip is very good, Philip IV is very good, like Henry VIII, at creating a new image of power, because Velázquez is different to what they had been doing before. Velázquez has he's part of this new movement, the Tenebrist movement. Tenebrist, like, his pictures are very dark, very based on ideas developed by Caravaggio, who's an artist who does all his paintings in dark settings. And also one of the things that I like about Velázquez, he's got a very bold brush stroke. So sometimes you can see like, oh, there he went, that the cheek is just a brush stroke or something like that. But still, even though you can see his brush strokes very well, not like Antonis More that you look like you're looking at a picture, he still has that intensity. His characters still are looking at you and they're in charge. And that's something that Velázquez is replicating from Antonis More. So he's getting that image of the Habsburgs, kind of like going with that, but presenting it in a new way. So I think he's very innovative. I don't think Philip IV was very innovative. He was just very cultivated. But I think Velázquez was very innovative in that sense.
Yeah.
So the parallel lives is, you see how circumstances in life it's funny because Velázquez is now way more famous than his patron, Philip IV, right?
Yeah. I couldn't have told you one thing about Philip IV before this.
Maybe that he was a Habsburg.
Yeah, maybe he had a great chin.
Well, and certainly Velázquez is the one to build up his Tinder profile, the Tinder profile of Philip IV, because he starts painting him when he's young. And also the Tinder profile of his son, Baltasar Carlos. I said that wrong. Baltasar Carlos, who has very striking pictures also. A lot of them are in the Prado. That's also contributed to creating this image of I think the paintings of Velázquez are the most recognizable, the portraits of Velázquez, of the royal family, are not just Las Meninas, but are the most recognizable too. Another thing that I would like to point out that I think is very cool, and that's why I have crushes on all the artists, because I like their lives. Because, for example, I could be wrong, but I don't think Philip IV ever left Spain, whereas Velázquez went twice to Italy.
That makes sense.
Yes. So the first time he gets a leave of absence to study in Italy, like Rubens had done for 8 years and that, to study. But then the second time he goes to buy works of art for the king.
Oh.
So this dude got around. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there he paints the Pope in one of the most famous portraits of all time, Innocent X, who then Francis Bacon reinterpreted. I don't know if you've never seen this picture by Francis Bacon where it's that same picture by Velázquez, but the face, like Francis Bacon, is a scream.
Oh, I have not. I'm gonna have to go look for that.
It's like Francis Bacon, intense for sure. So his 2 trips to Italy not only changed his style, because he's influenced obviously by Italian painters, but they're crucial also because in the second one, he's buying works of art for the king, but he's also accompanied by his most famous apprentice, Juan de Pareja, who was his slave, a black man who was Velázquez's slave. We have to remember that they had slaves at this time.
Yeah, and he was his apprentice. So do we have artwork by this guy?
Yes, and we have a very famous picture of him in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And I remember very well when Alejandro was in the show talking about Rubens and Velázquez, and you mentioned that you liked the way that Rubens would portray eyes.
Yeah.
And Alejandro mentioned this portrait of Juan de Pareja. He had a very famous exhibition some time ago. I would swipe him. Juan de Pareja is cute. I know someone who's going to love this. Michael Ohajuru is going to love this. We've talked about Juan de Pareja before. But the reality is that we think about these people like Velázquez and Philip IV and all that, like they're our friends, but there's still things going on as cruel as someone being your slave.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you do have to look at this portrait of Juan de Pareja. It's very recognizable as Velázquez, but you will immediately see what I'm saying, that it reminds you of Antonis More. That the person commands you authority, when you're looking at them.
You'll have to send that to me so I can include that in the video.
Yes, the cutie pie.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a catalog for that exhibition if anybody wants to know more about Juan de Pareja. Fascinating guy, great artist, much deserving of recognition. And even though it's a cruel reality that he was a slave, he managed to become a very successful artist too. So
that's great. See, that's a good ending to that story, at least. I feel like it is so easy for us to only focus on I don't even want to say the positive things, but to overlook the hidden parts of history, like slave owning and, conquering places.
About the marriages, and we talk a lot about how young girls were when they married. So it's very important that we talk about other things like slavery, which was still going on. In the documents I go over, Catherine of Aragon took several slaves to England. The way a person, at least from what I've studied in the time of Catherine of Aragon, because I've gone through this documentation, the way a person would gain their freedom in the case of the people in the royal household, because you have to think these slaves are people captured in places of Spain or Northern Africa that have just, in places of Spain that have just been conquered, like Granada and places like that, or incursions in the north of Africa. So obviously they're not Christians. The way for them to become servants and not slaves was to become Christian. And we know that because sometimes they're referred to as una esclava, a slave, but then they're referred to by their Christian name later on, and it's a servant. So also, for example, Catherine's eldest sister, Isabel Jr., so the eldest daughter of Isabel and Fernando, when she dies, in her last will, she makes all of her slaves free. So that was another way to compensate a slave. Not that you can never compensate a slave, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There was a path to become a free person, and a servant, which is not really free, but it was all, like I told before with the empire, they were so obsessed with having everyone become a Catholic and a Christian that was the pathway to gain freedom if you were a slave, or to really, like we know with the Jews, the same thing. Mm-hmm. If you want to stay in the Iberian Peninsula, you have to become a Christian. That was their obsession. Yeah. So that was the way to do that. In the case of, I wanted to bring up, in the case of Philip IV, in good Habsburg style, he was married very young. He was married at 10.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is young.
Yeah. He was married to Elizabeth of Austria at 10. And then later he is married to Mariana of Austria too, to the daughter. She's the niece, I want to say. No.
His niece,
and then daughter of the emperor. Mariana, because he marries her when he's older, when he's
like 44.
Yeah, 46, 44. And has Charles II, who will become Charles II, so named after Charles V, because Charles V is Charles I in Spain. It's like James of Scotland.
Oh,
yeah.
We've talked about that before, and I've just forgotten. But I
don't think I've ever mentioned it.
Wow. Okay.
Charles V is Charles V of Germany, but he's Charles I in Spain.
Wow.
Yeah. But like we say James VI and the First?
Yeah, but we mention him as Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. Is that correct?
That's perfectly correct.
Okay.
But in Spain, we call him Charles I.
Interesting.
We also call him Charles V more. I think it's because the historiography just named him that more often. So it just be like Catherine of Aragon. I was reading Juan Luis Vives yesterday. He calls her Catherine of Spain. He doesn't call her Catherine of Aragon.
Okay.
It's just the name that has been repeated in biographies. So yes, Charles V of Spain, of Germany, is Charles I of Spain.
Okay.
So Philip IV, when he has his son with Mariana of Austria, names his son Charles. It's like, let's put a name to revive the empire. And Charles II will be the last Habsburg.
Wow.
The last Habsburg, because he never has any children. And he has his jaw down to his knees.
That one. Okay, now I know. Okay, well, and he married his niece. Okay, Philip IV marries his niece. He's in his 40s. She's in her teens.
Yes.
They have this son, and that's like the pinnacle of inbreeding is the result of that.
Well, there's studies now that say that Charles, because for years he was called El Hechizado, so the bewitched, because he had lots of physical difficulties and this very tough appearance. But there's studies now that say that he wasn't that dumb. And above all, there's very good studies now that say that his mother, who became the regent, because Philip IV dies while Charles II is still a boy.
Okay.
that Mariana of Austria becomes really the powerhouse name in Spain as regent, and she's the one to manage everything. And Mariana of Austria is so important that the Prado Museum is going to dedicate her a whole exhibition this year, curated by no other than Professor Noelia Garcia Perez.
Well, in that case, I'm glad that we're talking about this woman.
Yes, so you have a date set to go to the Prado, because this is going to be a very good exhibition. And it's all got to do with Velázquez and his art, but also the way Mariana constructed the image of power once her husband was gone as a widower, and we see her in her portraits in dressed basically like a nun, you would say. But it's really what Noelia will argue, I think, in this exhibition, is that that's a way to command power through widowhood. This is something that is very interesting. We could talk in another episode about how women represent themselves differently in different stages. She's like, her Tinder profile is like, sorry, no.
Yeah, like she took away her feminine parts, maybe. And even today we look at women as, they say, oh, she's so emotional, she's a woman. This would have been a way for her to be like, no, I'm a widow, I'm pious,
I'm in charge.
Yes.
I'm in charge of my son. That's my goal. You know who she reminds me a lot of? Margaret of Austria.
Oh.
I mean, there's tons of Margaret of Austrias, but
yes, there are.
Yeah, Philip III's wife was Margaret of Austria.
Yeah, I noticed that.
We're talking about Margaret of Austria, the OG Margaret of Austria.
The marketing queen.
The marketing queen, crybaby's sister, betrothed to Charles V, not Charles V, betrothed to maybe even to Henry VIII, that Margaret of Austria, who was best friends with Catherine of Aragon, who in her portraits after she becomes the governor of the Netherlands, she's always dressed like that. Right?
Yes, she
is.
When
she sends her picture to Henry VIII and Catherine, which is still in the Royal Collection Trust, she's dressed as a widow. Why? Because she's sending out a picture saying to Henry, don't find me any husbands. I don't need a husband. Now I'm in charge. I'm going to tell a little anecdote. My grandmother, my Spanish grandmother, was a widower for a lot of her life. And to be honest, she had that same thing where she would dress a certain way and act a certain way and would always shelter herself in that she was a widow, because it does command power, to other people, and respect. You know what I mean? Respect for others, because she's already done that. And now she's already done the marriage thing. And now she's focused on raising the next generation, which is crucial when you're raising the next king of Spain, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned your grandma. That made me think about my paternal grandma. And, she became a widow. Gosh, she would have been in her probably late 60s, early 70s. And she just came into her own. She started wearing red and dressing nice and traveling. And it was like it was more important for her at that point to keep her children and her grandchildren on the right path in life and just to support them. So I don't know. I just made me think of my grandma. It makes me smile.
Oh, grandmas are amazing. And grandmas are so important in raising not only as moms, but a lot as grandmas, the following generation. I don't think in the modern period this was the case as important physically, because people lived less time. Obviously, you didn't probably know your grandma too much. But think about that genealogy of people that these people knew, right? If you were Philip IV, you knew who Isabel of Castile was. You knew all these things.
Yeah.
And see how, for example, that original, if you look at the portraits of Isabel when she's younger and then when she's older too, because she's not a widow, but she's lost her children, her heir, she also dresses like a widow. So the fact that these garments that women are wearing in these pictures that we see in the Royal Collection, in the Prado Museum and all that, have messages behind them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
I think that's, whereas, for example, in the Antonis More, I believe the use of black, which is another color associated with widows, and that has a different meaning. Black becomes the color of the Spanish monarchy in Philip II's reign. And it's not got to do with the fact that he's a widow over and over. It's got to do more with the fact that black was a really difficult color to achieve in your garments. So if you were able to afford it, it meant that you were loaded with money.
I find that interesting because, like, the Protestant movement, I feel like black cloth was really their thing too. It was like, we're going to wear black and we're not going to be too flashy. And yet, underneath it all, I think those people really wanted to be flashy.
But then, yes, you're right. But look at, for example, the pictures of Elizabeth I. How many pictures of Elizabeth I have you seen where she's all in black?
Maybe one. And I don't even know that it was really her.
And she wanted ribbons and in color, and she wanted
pearls
gold
and pearls
because she was not a virgin, so she had to like overcompensate. Like, cover me with pearls.
More pearls, like more cowbell.
I have a message to convey here.
That's right. Don't forget, I'm the virgin.
Escaping the room.
I'm the virgin queen. Remember, guys. Remember. Repeat after me. I'm the virgin queen.
Exactly. There's a whole place in America that will be named Virginia.
That's right.
After me, and another one, West Virginia. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's very important when you're looking at these pictures to realize that nothing is left it's casual. Nothing is casual, especially the Spanish monarchy. And you can see in how good their pictures become. They're obsessed because they're doing these marriages between the cousins. And with Mariana of Austria, you see this very well, that there's pictures of all her life. She's got a very extensive Tinder profile. These pictures of her in different stages of her life that tell us how women are seen first as these little girls that are attractive and this and that. And then when they become married, they usually change their fashion to suit the fashion of the court they've arrived. And then we see, for example, in England is the same, the transformation of women wearing the English gable hood, for example, when they were married. Only the queen could wear nothing on her hair. And then when they become widows, that image of them almost as nun-like women. Also, a lot of them became nuns. Why? Because it gave you a lot of freedom in many ways. We may not think about it that way now, but at the time it was like that.
Yeah, education and freedom.
Education and freedom. Who doesn't want that?
Yeah, it sounds marvelous, doesn't it? Oh my gosh.
Yes, it does.
Emma,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I can let you wrap up your train of thought there before I.
No, I was going to say in the sense of Philip IV of Spain and Diego Velázquez, I think the best way to get to know these dudes is and how good of a partnership they did is to go and look at Philip IV in the Prado Museum. There's many of his pictures, and then go and look Diego Velázquez as an artist and see how many of these pictures that he's doing are members of the family of Philip IV. Yeah. So that's a good way if anybody wants to dig in deeper in these two Baroque guys. We need to do a bit more Baroque, don't you think?
I think so. I guess we'll kind of see what people think first, I'm always like a little tentative about going outside of the 16th century, but this was a fun episode today, and it just reiterates to me what a specialist in Spanish history you are, and I want to be able to give you the opportunity to promote your new YouTube channel.
Yes. So, I mean, with a lot of guidance, encouragement, and help from Rebecca, I've decided to start my own YouTube channel called The Spanish. And the reason for that is first of all, I get a lot of comments from people that want to hear me talk more in Spanish about the things that I know. And I think it's fair that after a year of getting comments about that, I think the time has come for me to do that. but I don't want to leave aside the people who follow me in English. So I've decided, we do fun things here, but I thought it would be good for me to have a channel where I disseminate about my work more academically. And there I will be mostly on my own explaining these things about Spain. And I thought it will be a good challenge to do it in both languages.
Yeah, I'm
I
excited.
like it. Rebecca's learning some Spanish, by the way.
I am. I'm not going to speak it yet. I'm still at the very beginning.
Okay. Can you sing us the Lady Gaga song now?
No, and I'm not going to sing it. And then Alejandro's lawyer is going to contact me and say, cease and desist, please.
Now we have a list of people who are going to contact us to cease and desist.
We're in trouble. We are in so much trouble. But anyway,
well,
we do what
we
we
like
can.
to talk about cool dudes.
We do. This has been a fun episode. I know I'm always like a little hesitant on male episodes, but this one was fun. I was able to, joke about incest a little bit. So who doesn't?
Anytime we talk about the Habsburgs, guys.
That's right. And how Elizabeth had to be the Virgin Queen and make sure people called her that. And
well, I'm glad that you asked me a bit more about the Spanish Empire. I realized how much, we haven't talked about it. Yeah. So again, another plug for my new channel, The Spanish, with the very cute Dr. Emma. That obviously doesn't mean that we won't continue here. We are, because this is you don't even know how much I look forward for recording these and how much fun I have with the comments, guys. So bring them on.
Yeah.
I was so impressed this morning. I was like, I thought it was a good episode, but then other times I think they're good episodes and we don't get as many comments. So yeah, I was thrilled. So bring them on.
I was too. I was pleasantly surprised. It made me smile. I'm like, people like us.
People like us. Yes, and then it shapes what we do, because it let us know what you like. We know you like all the data about the 16th century. We know that. We know that you love that. But at the beginning, I was a bit reticent to do jokes on that. But once we started and see how much people like them, bring them on, guys, so we can keep going.
Yeah,
we're all some comments about the toilet, about Crybaby, about whatever you want.
We're all about educating and having fun while doing it. That is really what our mission is, isn't it?
Yes.
I think we're succeeding. I feel like I laugh a lot during these shows, and yet I learn a lot too. So I'm right there with you guys. I'm learning from Dr. Emma just as much as you are, and I'm absolutely enjoying myself.
And I'm having a lot of fun. I know I ramble sometimes, so, be gentle to me. I know sometimes I can go on tangents, but I try to, above all, I think it's cool because this is something that people don't know a lot about sometimes, but it's so intertwined to the things that we like about the Tudors. Because even today, I know it was the 17th century, but like I said, it's intertwined. It's European culture, really, and how it's evolving. And it doesn't come from nothing. It's all a genealogy of things that are connected. So maybe we should go back a little bit to the 15th century sometimes too.
Ooh, I would love that. I love medieval
stuff. I know you like
stuff.
The 15th century a lot.
I do. Oh, Emma, thank you so much for today. I had a blast and I can't wait for next week.
Okay, Rebecca. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of Dr. Emma and Me. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate and review the show. It really helps more people find it. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you'll know as soon as a new episode drops. And if you'd like to support what we're doing, head over to Patreon and become a patron. You'll get early access, bonus content, and more. Thanks again for being here. See you next time.